3 hours Pacific. That's a lot of time. Not
Yep.
everybody has 3 hours.
No, but sometimes when you're doing a podcast like this, you make the time.
You do. But if you're not doing a podcast like this and you don't have 3 hours, you might find yourself wondering, if I could only watch one thing, what would I watch? Well, Pacific, if you had to pick one portion of AEW television this week for them to watch, what would you pick?
That shoot promo last night on Rampage between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston.
It was a really, well, I think this is probably the best promo that we've seen in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Because they brought up some history between CM Punk when they were in Ring of Honor. They even mentioned Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and several others that in Eddie Kingston's mind, in the storyline, he feels they held him back.
Yeah, it was a really fun, and this is the kind of thing that we've talked about on the show. This is what they've been missing. This is wrestling. This is a big chunk of wrestling, is the passion, the emotion, and just the power of a good promo. This has not been seen on AEW television nearly enough.
No. I mean, look at that segment and look how quickly Eddie Kingston went from being a fan favorite to a heel.
Yep, he turned fast. And I mean, they did such a great job of it. I am really, really happy with the way that they did this. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Remember, just last week on the show, and I'm not throwing you under the bus here, I'm just making a statement. You were talking about how Eddie Kingston and CM Punk felt random, thrown together, and didn't make any sense. Look what this did. Look how powerful this segment was.
Yes. And may I add to that?
Of course.
After seeing that segment last night, I'm thinking to myself about what I said last week. And then I'm thinking, why didn't they start this feud sooner? Why are you waiting almost a week out until Full Gear to start this feud?
You know, it feels really familiar, doesn't it? It feels exactly like what they did with him and Miro.
Mm-hmm.
Waited until the last minute, started it, and the little bit that we had was golden. And then poof, it was over.
I'll just repeat what I said last week. CM reset.
That's it. Well, it's not even just CM reset. It's
I,
go ahead.
I'm just trying to keep it in the flow of what I said last week
Oh, I
because
got you.
even CM Punk has been, started a feud like we mentioned last week, and then that feud's been reset. So you have two guys who haven't been put into a solid feud like they need to be put into a solid feud.
Yep.
They would start one and then the rug would be pulled out from under them before anything can even get going.
Agreed.
Well, imagine if they started this feud, 2, 3 weeks ago, just to try to give it the proper build up for Full Gear.
Mm-hmm. It'd be nice, because what I think we're seeing is that Eddie Kingston, and you can say whatever you want to about his ring work. I know it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more, slow pace. It's not high flying. It's not technical. It's not pretty, but it's good. But you can say what you want to, and you can debate that all day long. But Eddie Kingston is one of the better mic workers in AEW. Obviously, MJF, I think, holds the top spot, but I think Eddie gives him a run for his money when it comes to just the raw power and emotion in his mic work. I mean, has somebody told him that this isn't real? Because I feel like somebody hasn't. Eddie gives me the vibe of somebody who, like, no one's told him that this is not real. You know what I mean?
There's an old saying amongst wrestling fans, it's still real to me, and it's still real to Eddie Kingston.
Clearly, it shows because that was fan freaking tastic. I only have one complaint about this segment, and it is
Okay?
neither Eddie or CM Punk's fault. But there was this weird, and this ties into what I was just talking to a second ago. There was this really, really weird camera angle that they kept flipping to. and it was like borderline nauseating me. Like I have vertigo, and so maybe it's just me, but that weird camera angle where it was like Eddie's face was like diagonal almost.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
That was doing a number on my vertigo, man. I couldn't take it. I was like, I don't know why, but this is really making me sick. um, I I just hope that whoever did that just was like, you know what? Let's not do that again.
I hope it's a one-time experiment where they thought, let's do something different than what you see on Impact or WWE, and let's try a camera angle that no one's really tried before.
Yep. And whenever that happens, one of two things happens. You either discover something amazing, or you find out that maybe there's a reason nobody else is doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
This time was the latter. There's a reason
Yep.
nobody's doing that. Yeah, I thought it was just me because I have vertigo, but it really like made me like I had to turn away when they would do that camera angle. I'm sure it probably wasn't that bad for many others, but it was just not a very pleasing camera angle. But that aside, I agree with that pick for segment of the week. That was one of the best mic battles segments in AEW history.
Hey, for anyone who says that Eddie Kingston's in-ring work isn't that great, he's got the profile of a brawler.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to go at you. He's not going to, do any high-flying moves, any submission moves. He's going to go at you, and his fists are going to be flying.
They really are. And I think his match against Bryan Danielson was a great example of that. Obviously, I said it wasn't the most technical, pretty, greatest match of all time, but it was a very entertaining match to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think he has the potential. But I'll tell you somebody who definitely has some great in-ring ability. That's my pick of the week. For my pick of the week, I'm going with Johnny Hungy versus Budge. Adam Cole, baby. Man, this was a match and a half to me.
That was a good match. That was a very good match.
This is in. Go ahead.
And it had you believing that Hungy was actually going to beat Adam Cole.
Boy, let me tell you something. I thought for sure he was about to pick up the win. Not every match can do this. It's a very special moment when a match can do this, but literally, this match had me jump out of my seat and go, no way. When, I forget what it was, but there was a false finish that they went with. And I mean, I thought it was when Hungy hit the low blow on Adam Cole. I was like, it's over. It's done. And then he kicked out of it. And I was like, yeah, this was such a freaking wonderful tastic match.
I even thought when he hit the power bomb that he might win the match.
I thought I was like, oh my gosh, he's really about to win. He's about to win the match. And but sure enough, of course, ultimately Adam Cole went over. Which, to be clear, I think that's the right call to have Adam Cole go over. He needs the win. The reality is that Johnny Hungy didn't need to win this match. He looked stellar in this match.
Mm-hmm.
That was all he needed. What they're doing here is they're putting individual members of the Dark Order in single matches, and they're making them look really good. I mean, Johnny Hungy, looked like a main event player in this match. And he's not. Like, that's what they did here, is that they literally made this guy who is just, a member of this large faction, doesn't normally get a whole lot of TV time in ring, and made him look like a main event title contender in my eyes.
I understand what you're saying because it goes back to what I said last week about, the bracket for the different wrestlers that were in the tournament. You have to make each and every person that's in this company, in that ring, look believable. That at any moment they could be in line for the TNT Championship, a tag team championship at some point, or even the world title at some point.
And if I'm being honest, I know the reason that they put 10 in the tournament was to get somebody who could just go in against Moxley and give him a good, physical showing and everything. But man, I would have killed to have seen Johnny Hungy get put in that tournament and actually get a real match in.
Hmm.
That would have been amazing. I think that would have been really entertaining, and I think he's got, if he wants it and if they'll let him have it, I think he's got a pretty good potential ahead of him as far as what he can do, you know, feud wise, title wise. I'd love to see him do more stuff. I think he's great, and I honestly aspire to have biceps like him. That dude is like those arms, man.
Yeah, those arms are as big as my thighs.
I won't quite go that far because, boy, you could call me thickums. Boy, I got some big old thighs. I got two hocks hanging down on me. But, dude, that guy's he's short, but he's built. He's built, dude. Um,
But it doesn't matter about his stature. If he can get into that ring and go in that ring, I mean, look at all the guys that we've seen throughout the years that aren't, high in stature, but they're high in their in-ring ability.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think they really proved it. They proved it in this match. This was they were really. It felt like they put 110% of their energy into every single move. I like the kicks. I felt the kicks. I felt the power bomb. I felt the punches, the elbows. Everything was perfect. It was just from bell to bell a great match. And of course, you got the feeling that as soon as the Young Bucks interfered, you're like, oh, it's over. You know, they're gonna go with an interference finish, and then the Dark Order comes down, and then you're like, oh wow, now it's over because the Dark Order came down, and they still went on for a good. I think it was like 5 more minutes they went on for.
Mhm.
You don't get to see that. Usually, once the interference starts, it's over. It's a quick finish at that point. They did not go with that cheap route. And I think it's especially important when we were just talking last week about, the roll ups and these non finishes that they're using as opposed to the traditionals. I think it was very important in this match to not go that route. And they didn't. In fact, I don't think, no, there was
I
not
didn't.
a single roll up on Rampage.
No, I was gonna say I didn't see a single one.
And it was Wednesday, so I don't really remember, but I don't know that there were any roll ups on Wednesday either.
Not that I recall, but I'd have to go back and rewatch Dynamite.
Yeah. Uh, okay, I know Omega versus Angels wasn't a roll up. I know that the tag match wasn't a roll up. I don't think it was, at least. And
No,
Rhodes versus Andrade wasn't a roll up because he got hit with the
no,
title. What was the main event? It was Cassidy versus Miro, and that was not a roll up. I don't think there was a single roll up this week. Are they actually listening?
they could be.
I swear, one of our viewers every week must be, or our listeners really, one of our listeners must be Tony every week because I feel like I'm being heard almost, which is unusual for a wrestling fan.
Well, unusual when you're watching some companies. Maybe AEW just wants to take in some input from their fans and say, okay, the fans aren't quite going with this, so what can we do to change it? Well, let's not have roll ups this week.